maker friends, Cindy here from Candle Studio 1422 and the Soy Candle Mentor. I just wanted to introduce myself for those of you who are not familiar with me, give you a little bit of background on where I came from, how I started making candles, and kind of my journey as to why I'm here. Back in 2017, I believe it was, I was looking for a creative outlet. I just needed to relieve stress. I had a demanding 9-to-5 job. I had twins who were much younger at that time. They were 7-year-olds. My husband was deployed at the time, and I just needed a stress reliever. So I had blogged a little bit before then. I had made soap, not to sell, just for something creative to do. So I did, cold press soap. I dabbled in some jewelry making at some point. Again, not to sell, just to have a hobby. So 2017, I started making candles, and it's a process that I really just enjoyed doing. It brought me a lot of joy, and I loved experimenting with different fragrances. And back then it was just a hobby. So it was just to play around with, and I purchased way too many fragrances. But it was a hobby, so it was fun. So all good, right? So fast forward to 2018, early 2018, I'm thinking, wow, I really enjoy making candles. Maybe I can do a business with it. Maybe I can create a business. So I still did a little hours and hours and hours of testing over months. And in June of the following year, I registered my business, insurance, all of the legal stuff. Still kind of treated it like a hobby, quite frankly, but it was legal at least. And still continue to experiment with different fragrances. I narrowed down my first 8 fragrances that I was going to launch with. And there it was, Candle Studio 1422. Candle Studio 1422 came from, I knew I wanted my business to be clear that, I made candles, so candle had to be in the name, but 1422 is more as a personal, the personal part of the name. It's the street address of my grandparents' home, where I spent countless hours as a youth. My favorite memories are at my grandparents' house with my aunts and cousins, and it's my father's side of the family. So it was just a lot of fun, all good memories. My grandparents, my grandmother's still alive, thank goodness, and my grandfather has since passed. Just had a very loving home. I always felt comfortable there. And quite frankly, had a childhood that had some trauma. So that place was always a safe place for me. And so Candle Studio 1422, that's where the name came from. But, so 2018, I had the business registered and everything, and I launched my Shopify website. Again, I still treated it like a hobby, so things were slow. I didn't get any sales online, and I started to do the following year. Actually, I started to do markets in 2019, and that's when I started to make a little bit more money. And I used make money very casually, because I don't think I really made money. I put more money into the business that I actually got out, so I wasn't really making money. But I would say that's when I started getting sales, I'll say. And still, it was just a hobby. At this point in late 2018, I left my full-time job, not to be a candle maker, but I just couldn't take it anymore. I just had to get away. So I still, I stayed at home with my kids and worked on my business and did some part-time work here and there. And then 2019, like I said, I started to do markets or whatever. And I felt like I was going to kind of push my business a little bit more. Come 2020, I looked at properties to open up a candle making studio. And I think it was October, November of 2019. I was close to signing a lease, and something didn't feel right. I felt like the particular town that I was looking at, my ideal customer wasn't there. And I was really clear on what who my ideal customer was, thank goodness. And I knew that location just didn't feel right. So I did not sign the lease. And although the landlord was perfectly willing to take me, and lo and behold, March 2020 rolls around, and we all know what happened then. COVID hit, so thank goodness I did not sign a lease and had the studio that no one could come to. So 2020, rolled around, but I still had this inkling or this, fire inside of me that I wanted to grow my business and expand my business of candle making, something I really enjoyed. And I particularly wanted to teach others how to make candles. So you fast forward to, I think it was September of 2020. My husband was like, oh, I saw this property in Kennett Square that's for rent. And I was like, oh, Kennett Square. I cannot afford to have a space in Kennett Square. It's a nice little historic part of a town here in southeastern Pennsylvania in Chester County. Very walkable, lots of shops and restaurants. But I was really concerned, like the rent is not going to be cheap, and it wasn't. But I did not want to go back to a 9 to 5, and I knew I was at the point where I needed to really try to push my business, or I needed to go back to a 9 to 5 because being at home just wasn't an option. Just mentally wasn't an option. Financially, I probably should, go back to work. So I reluctantly, I met with the landlords, reached out to the landlords, met with the landlords, and we signed the lease October 5th of 2020. Was I prepared to open that studio? Absolutely not. Everything was just so rushed at that point. I just felt like everything's fast paced, but somehow I managed. October 5th was the lease signing date, and I opened Small Business Saturday, November 28th, I believe it was, 2020, and opened the studio. My husband built my candle bar. He built my checkout counter. I went on Etsy, got this cute little welcome sign to put on the checkout counter. He built some tables for me, and he's not a craftsperson by trade. He's in accounting, and he's in the Army, but we got it together. It was a cute space. I got a lot of compliments on it, and that's kind of where the physical retail store, Candle Studio 1422, was born, and I stayed there for 4.5 years. And, it was ups and downs. Kennett Square is a very walkable area. People really care about small business. It wasn't a quirky little spot in the alleyway, so the foot traffic wasn't as great, but it worked out for 4.5 years until it didn't. And the reason for me, I decided to call it quits for the retail store anyways, because I wanted my weekends back. It was exhausting. And I'll get into this, down the line with other resources and maybe a podcast on it once. But right now I'm really focused on just giving my background story. I just wanted my weekends back. I missed my son's basketball games. I missed cross country meets. I just missed time with my family. And so literally on my kid's birthday of this year, 2025, back in April, I emailed my landlord and I was like, I think that's it for me. And I plan to close at the end of June. And that is what I did. Looking back, I have no regrets. 4.5 years, I'm proud of myself for what I was able to accomplish. And I don't have any regrets. And even with closing the studio, I still don't have any regrets. Do I miss being in that studio space? Actually, I don't. I am looking forward to this next chapter. I really want to continue the teaching part of the business, but on my own terms. I plan to offer workplace workshops where I go to different businesses and do candle making in 2026. But I really wanted to focus on new makers because I want to give you all the information and that I didn't have when I started. And of course, there's tons of information out there, even 7-8 years ago when I started. But you're pulling bits and pieces here, bits and pieces there. It's good to get a personal touch from someone who's kind of been through it. So that's my goal, to share actionable, practical steps. I understand when money is a factor and you can't afford to get the big wax melter. You can't afford to pay, for tons of fragrance oils because they're so expensive. You're really debating, and if you can afford to, build a Shopify site, or if you should go with Shopify because maybe it's a little pricier than some of the other platforms. You don't know how to price your candles. Maybe even the simple things as far as, how do I calculate fragrance oil load in my candles? So my purpose is to share that information in bite-sized chunks. Like, not to overwhelm you, because it can be really overwhelming with all of the information out there. And so I just want to kind of break that down step by step, and just share my experiences with you all and help you start and grow your business. So right now, that's where I'm at right now. I am starting the Soy Candle Mentor, although the website went up a year ago. I'm really starting to get into it now, when I have the time to do it now. And this is really something I'm passionate about, is helping others, teaching and just watching and helping people grow. Whether you want extra income, in addition to your full-time or part-time job, or if you're eventually looking to turn your candle business into a full-time income, I will be here every step of the way. So thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe. There's a lot more content coming. And like this video. Take care, makers.